A slight bit of misdirection, and what looks like it's going to be a standard template turns out to be a really good action film. A cinematic class is about to begin, and you'll greetings, salutations, and other sundry. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. And tonight's lesson plan is a movie called The Child. Now, I may be saying this wrong because I don't speak Korean, okay? But it's actually child with an E on the end. So it could be the CHILDE. I don't know. But I think it's The Child. And this is a good movie. I really enjoy it. It had a little bit of misdirection because when it first started out, I thought, well, this is just going to be another one of these, Street Fighters, action kung fu romps and standard plots, standard revenge themes, standard everything. No, it went far from that. And, it's reasons like this that I think it's why I'm so enamored with Asian cinema, especially Korean cinema. I think the Koreans, their film industry, has been probably the most creative over the last, I want to say maybe dozen years or so. I mean, they have really put out some really good stories. Now, they have some problems, and I usually bring those out in my reviews, but overall, they have good stories and tell them exceptionally well. And this one, The Child, is no exception. Okay, so what's happening here in this movie? It begins with, you have a kid that's fighting on the street. All right, and he's a pretty decent fighter. He brings in a lot of money doing that, but he needs it because his mom is very, very sick. She's in dire need of medical care and probably an operation to save her life. Okay, up to this point, this is pretty much the launching pad for about 90% of your kung fu action movies nowadays. And as it opened up, I thought, here we go again. Another template that we've got to follow. Hopefully this kid can fight. Well, it turns out to be far from that. This kid, while he fights really well on the street, turns out to be not quite so good as the people he encounters. We step into a whole nother realm of professional fighters and hitmen, and it all centers around one of the more wealthy families in Korea. But see, they're having medical problems with their patriarch also. And the solution to their problems becomes involved with our street urchin fighter. But that's not the end of it. There's a third party involved who have hired a professional to clear up the whole matter. That's about all I can give you without giving away too much of the plot. But I can say that the action intensifies, the plot becomes sticky, and the snappy one-liners are as good as your typical American action film. So you have that going for. And I've got to point out, too, that I'm going to take a wild stab here because I didn't actually do the counting. But I'll bet about 70% of this movie is a chase scene. And you're wondering who's chasing who and why. And after it's all done, you go, aha! Here's a look at The Child.
Are you? 친구. 대체 뭐야 니들? 개인적인 감정은 없어. 우린 프로고 이건 비즈니스.
안녕 친구. 내가 조만간 또 보자 그랬지?
All right, let's go behind the camera now. Time for me to butcher up some Korean names. I'll apologize in advance. Starring in this movie is Kim Seon-ho and Kang Tae-ju, Kim Tang-woo, and Go Ara. And it was directed by Park Hon-jung. Done a good job on this. Movie moves very well and is put together nicely. Speaking of putting things together nicely, perhaps it's time to crank up the old time machine. Peel back those veils of time and head back to the village for traditions. For the nation's first and only prehistoric film, Britain, Rex. So I said on the outset that the Koreans are making some top-notch films, and this one is one of them. Really good action, snappy dialogue. I enjoyed watching this. Even taking the time out to read the subtitles, it still did not detract from the movie. I think you will enjoy it as well. There are extra scenes that are inserted during the end credits. Stay for those because they develop the story even more than the conclusion of the movie. And now that you have learned what you have learned, here in